Would I be the arsehole if I stopped supporting my disabled father over his preferential treatment towards my siblings? I, 26 male, have two sisters who are 18 and 23 from the same mum and dad who are in their 50s. When I was 16, my parents went through a messy divorce which resulted in my sisters staying with my mum and I stayed with my dad. My dad is disabled and has been unable to work due to a long list of medical issues since I was 16. He has kidney failure and is currently on dialysis while waiting for a transplant. This has meant that I've been looking after him in a variety of caretaker ways for a decade now. Throughout this time, his contact with my two sisters has been minimal. He has in the past allowed my eldest sister to claim benefits that she was not entitled to by claiming to be a carer for my father, amongst others. She has at no point in her life provided care for my dad. This caused many fights between my dad and I, as I felt he was allowing her to commit fraud just so that he could feel like he was helping her. I was recently contacted by his doctor, who told me that my dad was no longer on the transplant list to receive the kidney transplant that he needs. Apparently his health is now so poor that they don't know for sure if he'll survive general anesthetic for the operation. I was told that a major factor for this was his poor diet, which was exacerbating his existing health issues. Hearing this, my wife and I decided to move back in with my dad to try to get him onto a healthier diet to hopefully prepare his body for the transplant that he needs. After we moved in, I was going through his most recent letters when I discovered a letter informing him that my youngest sister had applied for a grant for young carers as a result of caring for him. My dad is lucky to see my sister once a month, let alone the 16 hours a week this grant requires. I confronted him, and he said that he was just trying to help her out in any way that he could. This again led to a massive fight, as currently me and my wife are the only family members supporting him. My sisters do nothing for him. They are both adults, and yet neither have lifted a single finger once to help him. And yet, here he is again, essentially committing fraud to help them out. We can't help but feel taken for granted and simply unappreciated. We do everything we possibly can for him, sacrifice our time, energy, and money to ensure that he has a more comfortable life, but time and time again, he chooses to focus his energy on helping my sisters cheat their way to funds and benefits that they don't deserve. He has never once asked them to help him, so the burden of responsibility for his care rests entirely on our shoulders, despite the fact that of the 3 siblings, I am the only one not currently receiving any benefit related to his care. We are now at the point where we're considering pulling all our support, financial and physical, and leaving his care entirely to the 2 women who are actually benefiting from providing it, quote-unquote. Would I be the arsehole for withdrawing support from my father? In the comments. As someone who is highly familiar with this family dynamic and has read a lot of books about this, let me rephrase the question. Would I be the arsehole if I withdraw my unappreciated long-term support for my dad, who has been deliberately neglecting me the entire time while passing all my benefits to my absent but entitled siblings who don't even see him often? Not the arsehole. It is not your fault that he is knowingly applying double standards, rewarding the neglect of his favorites and grooming them to be entitled, and punishing and invalidating the sacrifice of his designated scapegoat. He cannot have it both ways. It's time to set things straight. 1. If he truly appreciates your efforts, then he should have given the benefits to you, or 2. If he wants to give the benefit to others, then you should pass the responsibility to them. The ones who answered "you're the arsehole" or "everyone sucks here" are probably not from toxic families with toxic parents who are neglecting but are quick to demand the scapegoat child's perfection and time, energy, and money. It is easy to use compassion in taking care of the elderly to guilt someone else into staying in the unfair setup when it doesn't involve any sacrifice on your part. Belligerent Drunk Girl says, according to OP, they do not qualify for these benefits regardless, and did get them when they qualified for them. OP replies, as you may have seen in some of my other comments, there is one benefit that I would benefit greatly from that he instead gives to my sister, a Motability car. This ends up costing us hundreds more pounds per month than it otherwise would. But you're correct that currently I do not qualify for any of these benefits, age and income, but I did in the past. The issue is more around the last commenter's second point. If they get the benefit for helping him, they should help him. A deleted commenter says, OP, you've spent a decade of your life helping your dad and have gotten nothing in return, even though you could have qualified for various benefits over the years. Move on, because you've sacrificed enough. How much farther could you be in your life working towards your goals had you not been forced into an uncompensated carer position as a literal child? How much farther could you be if you had at least gotten any of the compensation that you had qualified for? It's time to make up for lost time and focus on you and your wife and your life. Don't feel an ounce of guilt because you've given a priceless gift in putting him first for all of those years. Not the asshole. I don't think you want to stop looking after your dad here, and that is completely understandable. If I were in your shoes too, I probably wouldn't want to stop caring for him because I would regret it if he died and I just walked out on him like that. That's what I'm going to assume the situation is, because from how you're writing it, it doesn't sound like you're ready to just put everything down and walk away. Because realistically, there's not that much time left anyway. If we're going for equality, if we're going for fairness, I think you pressure him to stop her getting those benefits, or you get her to reroute a significant chunk of those benefits to you somehow, some way. Regardless of what the solution is and where to go from here, you're not the asshole in this situation, and you cannot be the asshole given what you have done so far. I think anyone giving an everyone sucks here or you're the asshole judgment to you for this one live under a rock, are probably 15 years old, and have no life experience, and they have no idea what it's like to be in your shoes. So I don't think you should take those opinions seriously. I think you're doing the best with what you've got, and I don't think you are wrong for the choices you've made. So absolutely not the asshole. And now, onto the update. I remembered this post as my dad's birthday had recently passed, and I thought that I might as well give an update, even though no one asked. In January 2023, my father passed away from complete kidney failure. It wasn't a surprise to me. His health had been in decline, and a transplant wasn't going to happen. The rest of the family, though, were shocked. The last time he spoke to anyone, I showed him the 7-week scan of my now 2-year-old son and his first and only grandchild. We had rushed to get the earliest scan that we could, knowing he didn't have much time. My son looked like a seahorse tadpole. He cried when I showed him, and we had a short talk about fatherhood before exhaustion took over. He fell asleep, and he never woke up. I asked him not to tell anyone since we were still early and we didn't want to jinx it. He said, "I'll take it to the grave," and passed away 3 days later. He kept his word. I think seeing the scan and having that moment made him die happy. As for my sisters, they never changed. I let it go. I knew I couldn't change my dad, and he was on borrowed time. For his birthday that year, we rented a canal boat since he'd always wanted one. He crashed it almost immediately. They gave him less and less consideration, ignoring him completely on what turned out to be his last birthday. No visit, no call, not even a text. He was devastated and reduced contact with them, though he never stopped helping them financially. When they found out that he was dying, they rushed to his side and stayed until he passed. But like before, it was too little too late. He was already unconscious. They hadn't shown urgency when he was first admitted, only showing up when I told them that he had chosen to end life support. I'd been told the day he was admitted, over 2 weeks earlier, that he might not survive. I believed it. I'd seen him in these situations before, and this time felt different. The rest of the family still thought he would recover and didn't treat him as a priority. Eventually, my dad asked me if he was dying. Everyone else had been giving him false hope, mostly for themselves, so I had to tell him, "Yeah, you're gonna die soon." And that was not an easy conversation. He passed surrounded by family who barely gave him their time when he was alive. My sisters definitely regret how they treated him, but it's too late. We were civil at the funeral, but we haven't spoken since. I scattered my share of his ashes at the end of the canal that he never got to see. My sisters turned theirs into jewelry. I miss him every day, especially as his grandson looks so much like him. It's a shame that things never got resolved with his daughters while he was alive, but I think he died a happy man, and that is enough for me. In the comments, Teruiel says, I'm glad that OP was still there for his father at the end. For his sake more than anyone's. He won't have to struggle in the same way as the rest of the family. I am also livid on his behalf that his father allowed his daughters to defraud the programs that exist to help people in these circumstances, though I understand the why. He had lingering guilt about how the divorce played out. However, it's fraud like that which causes these things to lose funding, which in turn hurts others. I'm not sure that it was lingering guilt. I think he'd hoped to buy their favor and thought that if he funneled money their way, they would finally give him the time of day. I was waiting for him to say that the sisters sued him for the house and his entire estate, even though OP lived there and cared for his father, basically giving up his life for his dad while they did nothing. I figured they would descend like vultures before the ashes were cooled. Well, given that OP said they lived in poverty and off of benefits for the last decade or more, I'm guessing there wasn't an estate to fight over, or at least, not much of one. Sad one to end on, and that is probably the case, because I have no doubt those two sisters would have descended on that property like vultures, as said. It's incredibly predictable behavior. It is sad and depraved behavior, but it is what it is. These people are all the same and they're not going to change. No matter what you say to them, no matter what you try to do, I genuinely don't think there was anything OP or the father could have done to break them from their chains, their shackles of shitty entitled behavior. It's sad that it had to end this way, but I'm glad that OP didn't give up on his dad. It was just a no-win situation for him to be stuck in. In a perfect world, he would have gone after those two and stopped the benefits, but I imagine that would have caused more trouble than it was worth, and would have damaged his relationship with his dad in the dad's last days. That's why I think it's a no-win situation, because I don't think that would have been productive. It would have upset him before he died, and OP would have regretted that, and yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that situation if I was OP. Sorry to anyone that's listening that has been through similar situations as this. I know it's not easy to deal with, and it can get even messier than whatever OP was dealing with, so my heart goes out to you for that. Thank you for coming back and updating us on what happened, OP. I hope all is well going forward, and I hope your sisters have some change of heart or some karma meets them somewhere. Who knows? Our next post is by user Best Host, and it's titled, Am I the asshole for calling my wife a jerk for telling our son's crush that our son likes her in front of his friends? I, 37 male, have 3 kids, 14 male, 11 female, and 8 female, with my wife, 37 female. Our son, who we'll call Sonny, is in grade 9. My wife has been asking him if he's into this girl in grade 10, Tina, 15 female, who he's been hanging out with. Sonny said that it's not her who he likes, it's a different girl, a 9th grader who we'll call Chris, 14 female. My wife asked Sonny if Chris knows. He said no, and that it's a secret. My wife asked why. He said that his friends will make fun of him. My wife again asks why. He said it's because Chris is the heaviest girl in their grade, she has terrible skin, and she's a tomboy. One Saturday, Sonny had friends over. It was Sonny plus 5 other boys, with Chris, Tina, and another girl. At one point, my wife just walks into the living room and tells Chris that Sonny has a huge crush on her. It was so uncomfortable after that. Chris got up and just walked out of the house. The kids barely said anything, and they left earlier than expected. Sonny didn't say anything to me, nor his mum, but he made sure to slam every door that he used. Later that night, in bed, I called my wife a jerk. She said she was just trying to prevent our son from becoming a bully. I told her that there was a better way, and she then asked what if one of our daughters were in Chris's position. Then she asked if we went to the same high school, would I hide my feelings for her? She ended up sleeping in the guest bedroom. Am I the asshole? Edit. A sad update. This information is sad, and the fact that I had to hear about this from Tina's mum is sad. To nobody's surprise, Chris was indeed humiliated. Chris at first thought that it was a cruel prank, and then when Sunny confirmed it, she questioned why his mum would announce it like that in front of all their friends. Sunny took the honest route, and he told Chris why he didn't want to tell her. Chris's feelings are hurt. She said she can't like someone who was so embarrassed for people to know that he likes her. So our son is even more upset with us. What my wife did showed my son in a bad light to most of his friends. Some of them thought that it was a prank. Some of them think something is wrong with my wife mentally. The people who my son are talking to the most about this situation are Tina and Tina's mum. In the comments, Wintonen says, "Your wife needs to stop being so nosy and annoying. She's a 37-year-old woman behaving like an annoying 12-year-old. Not the asshole." The son shared something he felt was embarrassing with his parents. That shows trust. She just shit all over that trust. If I were in the son's shoes, I would be furious and would likely never trust mum the same as before that. I'd never forget that humiliation. Bullying her own child as a lesson against bullying? Insanity. I know I would absolutely never trust my mum again. Not the asshole. Did you point out to your wife that Chris walked out because she thought your wife was bullying her? That outing the crush doesn't come off as a nice thing, but a mocking one? Her behavior was typical high school mean girl. OP replies, "Wait, I never thought of that. Do you really think that Chris thought that a woman in her 30s was bullying her?" Bippity Boppity replies, "A woman in her 30s was bullying her, for F's sake. She was bullying her and your son. Your wife is a flaming, gaping asshole." Adult woman bullies the unattractive girl in high school. If I were Chris's father and she told me what happened, Chris wouldn't be coming over to your house anymore. And I would tell her how wrong it was that your wife treated my daughter that way. It would be a lesson for my daughter to not allow terrible people to be a part of her life. That's another point. OP's wife almost certainly ruined her son's friendship with Chris, and thus any chance they might eventually grow closer. Not the asshole. Your son is a kid. He's very sensitive to social pressures from friends, even if incorrect. Long term, however, your wife's actions will make him unlikely to confide in you guys ever again, which is a much bigger issue and totally valid from his perspective. This essentially is the worst strategy that she could have done to teach him a lesson or help him emotionally mature. Also, it's stupid. He wasn't being a bully. He was just keeping his feelings to himself due to peer pressure. He was still friends with Chris and hanging out with her. I would never want to tell anyone anything again after this betrayal. Poor kid. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that OP probably hasn't experienced a situation like this before, so doesn't recognize that it is in fact bullying, and probably doesn't consider his wife a bully. So yes, while OP called the wife a jerk for saying this, he probably just thought that she was doing a bit of playful teasing and not genuinely being a harassing negative force. She was being a bully, and she is a bad person for doing what she was doing. That would be a little bit world-shattering, being like, oh my god, is my wife an asshole? Is my wife actually a terrible person right now? And yeah, she is. She is. And you're not an asshole for pointing that out. As other people also pointed out, good luck with him trusting you with more dangerous situations that may come up in the future with him. This is going to be doing so much more harm than good. I hope that you can nip this in the bud and get his trust back. That will require quite a bit of work, so good luck, and you're not the asshole for doing that. And now, on to the update. So, I have some good news and some bad news. My wife has read the original post, the edits, and all of my comments. I also showed my wife some specific comments. She read a ton of comments on her own. I don't know if she'll read this update post, because she says she hates Reddit and will never go back on Reddit for as long as she lives. However, she did agree to individual therapy and couples therapy. Back in middle school and high school, my wife was bullied a lot for her weight and acne. She still struggles with her weight and acne. I think she looks beautiful. What I've seen from her personality recently is another story. Last night, my wife said that Sunny had body-shamed Chris when he gave the reason why his friends were making fun of him for liking Chris. To my wife, Sunny merely acknowledging that Chris is heavy and has acne is body shaming, even though he also calls her pretty. My wife said that she told Chris that Sunny likes her in front of everyone because my wife was afraid that if Sunny keeps his feelings for Chris a secret, that he'll end up with his friend Tina, 15 female. I've been learning a lot about what's going on in our son's social circle. Not from my son, but from Tina's mum. The thing said, my son gave Tina's mum permission to tell me. Tina has been working hard to fix her friend group. Tina has convinced Chris to forgive my son and to go on a date with him. Also, when the friend group wants a house to hang out at, they'll do it at Tina's house. None of the kids want to come near my wife. One of the boys who were there that day told his parents, and now he's not even allowed to go to our house. Tina's mum said that her house is always welcome to my son if he needs a place to stay. I made sure to quickly tell my wife that Sunny and Chris will go on a date later in the week. I wasn't sure what my wife's reaction would be, and I wanted to get it over with before our son came home. My wife basically said she told me so. She said Reddit and I were wrong. My wife is claiming victory for getting Sunny and Chris together. My wife claims that our son will thank her later. My wife is living in her own little world. This evening, I finally had a significant conversation with my son. During the conversation, he wasn't referring to his mum as mum, nor my mum, but your wife. Damn, your wife really messed up, hey OP. He said when he wants to talk to an adult about stupid teenager stuff, he'll talk to Tina's mum. Sunny said that he doesn't want to tell me something then give me the burden of keeping it a secret from my wife. Our son is continuing his radio silence with his mum. When I think of my wife's well-being, I have to look at it in the context of co-parent instead of my life partner. I need to watch her and make sure that I will protect our kids from her if needed. She was a stable mum, but somehow she's morphed into some bratty teenager upon hearing some teenage drama. I hope my wife gets stable again, but my kids are and will be my number one. In the comments, Conscious Arm says, Sunny and Chris are going on a date despite your wife's actions, not because of your wife. And your wife has lost Sunny. He'll never go to her with something personal again for as long as he lives. Unfortunately, it also looks like you've been hit in the crossfire, and he won't tell you much going forward either. Your wife has permanently damaged or ruined her relationship with Sunny. I hope she's proud of herself. Yeah, it's heartbreaking to see how deep the damage goes. She thinks that she helped, but all she really did was make sure that he'll never trust her again, and now the fallout is hitting everyone. That's what false ego does to us. She thinks she won because they're going on a date, but hasn't yet realized that her son now hates her. Oh, she won all right. Her son hates her, Chris hates her, Tina hates her, the entire friend group hates her, all the parents hate her. The only thing that she won was a one-way trip to the nursing home from Happy Gilmore. Your fingers hurt? Well, now your back's going to hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty. I still stand by the fact that she is a bad person, and there is no excuse for it. There's an explanation in that she was projecting her insecurities from high school, but any normal person will let go of those insecurities and not let it eat them up upon hearing new teenage drama entering their life indirectly. She was not involved in any of this, and she decided to get involved because she can't help herself. There is no excuse for that. She is a bad person, and she needs to change her ways. But it's not going to happen, so she will not be a part of your son's life anymore in any emotionally intimate capacity. Crazy how the consequences of one's actions can come back and bite them. What a weird world we live in, huh? What? I was an asshole and they still succeeded in spite of my actions? Despite my actions? Yeah, I'm a true hero right here. I'm going to pat myself on the back. Seems like some of that commentary from OP in this situation too shows that he realizes what a bad person she is morphed into all of a sudden. Maybe this is some childhood trauma springing up, but you gotta recognize that and stop yourself from talking absolute shit. You're not absolved from the hurt that you pass down to your son if you can't control yourself projecting your childhood or teenagehood trauma. That's simply not cool. Anyway, sometimes the snark doesn't come out as sarcasm. Sometimes it comes out as, I do not like these people. They upset me. And that would be because they are upsetting me. And you guys like to hear my opinion, so there you go. Thanks for listening, guys. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.